Whiskey Jason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskey, and today I have something from Detroit, Michigan. Grass Widows from the 2 James Spirits Distillery. Wow. Alright, now how did I get this? I'm in Germany, and there's a exclusive importer called mydrams.de, DE is Deutschland for Germany, and they actually sent me this sample. This sample over here is 0.05 liters, so 5 CLs, costs 14 euros. We're talking about $17. The bottle, 0.7, costs 99 euros. We're talking about $115. In America, you can get it for about $65, which I still think is a very, very, very extraordinary price. All right, Grass Widow, for those of you who don't know that, those are the women who have to endure their men being away for a very long time, usually also during sailors, captains, and so on, military people. According to my research, this was sourced, but according to the label, it says Grass Widow Bourbon distilled at 2 James Spirits Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And the very, very important thing about this is it has a Madeira Barrique finish. Barrique is a type of barrel. Madeira is a type of fortified wine from Portugal. Yummy, by the way. Now, 2 James Spirits produces gin, vodka, and rum. Don't care about that. It's Whiskey Jason. But they do have a Catcher's Rye. I would be very interested in that. They have a Johnny Smoking Gun bourbon. Looked interesting. And they have a J. Riddle peated bourbon. For some of you who like peated whiskeys, that would be a very interesting thing. This is Whiskey Base 62295, which is very interesting because that is our European database here for more European than any place else. European database for whiskey. There's over 100 and almost 20,000 whiskeys in that database. And so with 62,000 means it was actually entered in 2014 at the very beginning when the distillery was actually founded. Now, it says straight whiskey with no age on it, so that means it's at least 4 years old. The distillery is barely 4 years old, and so I'm a little bit confused that it says distilled at. I was suspecting that it was sourced. All right, Detroit, Michigan, we had a David Loudron and a Peter Bailey who decided to start this distillery. David has his doctorates in, or his PhD in art history. Wow. And they both have ancestors with the name James, 2 James Spirits. David Pickerell, I love that name. He used to be the master distiller at Maker's Mark. Then he wanted to expand his horizons. New challenges awaited him, and he's helped, I think, at least 24 different distilleries start up. Angel's Envy, Whistle Pig, as well as 2 James Spirits. This has a mash bill of 60% corn, 36% rye, and 4% malted barley. Now, the thing that really, really disturbed me the first time I tried it, which was about 10 minutes ago in my German video, was it's like, I know this. And it took a little while, and I finally got it. If you've ever had Whistle Pig New World Madeira Rye Whiskey, you will have a very, very similar spirit in your glass. David Pickerell was also responsible for Whistle Pig at the beginning, where they tried their port, their sherry, their Madeira cask finishes with their 12 and 10-year-old ryes. I had the privilege of actually tasting all of those and trying them, even a blind tasting I did with them and so on. The Madeira was the thing that I liked the best. 45.5%. My nose says vanilla, caramel, very, very nice bourbon with a little bit of breakfast tea. I get my pecans. I get just a touch of the tobacco leaves. But what I really get, and that kind of throws me off at the same time, is it's fruity. It's an interesting winey type of moment. A wine spirit, as in Madeira. Madeira has a dolce, and as well as a dolce is sweet, and they have a fino, which is dry. And I'm not sure what type of Madeira cask they actually used here. This is something where I really have my difficulties categorizing. I recently in German took 12 bourbons, put them into a blind tasting, and I actually just took those 12 and I rated them with the nose and I rated them with my palate, and I actually categorized them according to from best to worst. 12 whiskeys at once, 12 bourbons, all in the price tag between about $15 to about $40. Maker's 46 won, by the way. And the loser, which really blew my mind, was Four Roses, small batch. I think the bottle has had too much oxidation. I don't know, or maybe I might have been off or something like that. But what really, I'm getting to the point, thank you. What really threw me for a loop the whole time was Woodford Reserve, because it just didn't fit in the pattern. Everything was column still, everything was a straight bourbon, and then you had this triple distilled, oily, creamy, exotic whiskey. And I nosed it, I put it up here, and I tasted, I put it down here, and I tasted again, I put it in the middle, and I just knew the entire time basically what it was, but to honestly compare it to everything else, it was almost impossible because it just didn't fit that profile. Imagine you have 12 different cars and they're all the supercars. We're talking about 400 horsepower muscle cars, Italian, your everything. Bentley would barely make it in there. The Swedish, everything, those super hyper cars. And then you put the Raptor in there, that pickup with like 600, 700, 800 horsepower. And it just doesn't fit, and yet somehow it does. And that's what's happening here. It just doesn't fit. That fruitiness really throws me for a loop, and it's not a bad loop, and it's not a good loop, it's just a loop. And therefore I'm going to actually just give this a B on the nose and say, okay, interesting. Tasting. 36% is a high rye. Do I taste the high rye? Yes, definitely. That's why it reminded me so much of the Whistle Pig rye, because of that moment of the old world Madeira, what they had. But then that Madeira kicks in at the end. That sweet fortified wine from Portugal really just kind of confuses me, to be honest. It's not a bad. It's actually nice. It enters in a very sweet, bourbony manner. You get some nice wood. You get some nice caramel. You actually get a little bit. I'm getting actually toasted marshmallows, which I haven't got for a long time. And then you get a little bit of the tobacco leaves in there. You get the pecan, my pecan pie from Texas. Good. And then you kind of go over to that tropical fruity moment, those light grape moments, that Madeira moment. And it just really goes, oh, it's going someplace totally different. And at the end, that just kind of mixes in together with the Madeira as well as the bourbon. And there's nothing wrong with this whiskey. It's not too young. It's not too old. It's not too woody. There's enough oak in there to make everyone happy. Everything's there, plus a little bit more. And so I can only say that I'm going to give this a B+. Well done, gentlemen. 2 James Spirits. Very, very nice. If you actually produce this yourself there in Detroit, Michigan, wow, respect. According to everything I know, it's a sourced whiskey. Even though it might be a sourced whiskey, good job. MGP, who knows? Now, I do have a problem, and that's with your pricing. 99 euros, $115, no go. That's actually a failing mark. $65 in America. I saw on Reddit one person actually got a bottle for $40 in 2014, and since then the prices have gone up to about $65. Even that price is just not really something I would pay for my whiskey. And my whiskey of the day question is, how much are you willing to pay for a no age statement bourbon? It's not an Eagle Rare 17. It's not Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. It's not a Pappy Van Winkle. It's a Grass Widow 2 James Spirit, Detroit, Michigan product, maybe even sourced. How much would you pay for that? And my limit is going to be somewhere around the $40 mark. Anything above a $40 mark, it has to be mighty special. It has to have a backstory that I'm going to go, wow. And it should have an age statement on there where I go, oh, that's interesting. And to be very, very honest, I would like to have the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection distilled on that day, bottled on that day, and I would like to even know the evaporation rates, the angel share that you can get from Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. That might make it worth that price. But without all that information, it's just basically a normal bourbon with a nice little kick added in there with Madeira. But is that worth a price of at least double what I would be willing to pay? So sorry. All right, Whiskey Jason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany. My question of the day was and is, how much would you pay for a no age statement bourbon? Write it down. What is your limit? As I said, $40 would be my limit. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, please subscribe, please tell others about this crazy American over here who gets interesting things even from America. It's amazing how things from America make their way over to Germany, and even that I get to try. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays my videos come out. Thank you very much. See you later. Bye-bye.